Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gnomon live stream. We are streaming on multiple platforms this evening, and it's my pleasure to be with you. And we want to welcome you to our event this evening, Climbing the 12 Temples from Modeling to Look Dev with Leticia Gillett and Victor Hugo. So my name is Adam Hartel. I'm a recruiter here at Gnomon, and it's with great honor that I'll be introducing our guests tonight. But before I introduce them, I'd like to thank Lenovo for sponsoring this event. Lenovo helps us continue to bring free educational events to you. So we're very thankful for that. And with that said, I'd like to now introduce our guests. So first off, we've got Leticia Gillett with us, and she is a 3D modeler and texture artist with a focus on bringing characters to life. Before coming to the US, she worked in Brazil with ArcViz, in commercial houses, and as a 3D generalist, and taught for 3 years on the subjects of ArcViz and 3D character creation. Leticia moved from Brazil to follow her dreams of studying at the Gnomon School of Visual Effects. And after finishing school, she worked for various studios, including Blizzard, Entertainment, Entertainment as a 3D character artist on Overwatch, DreamWorks as a 3D modeler, and Netflix Animation as a character development artist. Today, Leticia works as a character modeler. Also, we have on the stream tonight Victor Hugo. And Victor has 15 years of experience working as a 3D artist, including 6 as a freelancer. He's an award-winning artist with one of the 3D community's most recognizable portfolios of stylized 3D illustrations. He was born and raised in Sao Paulo, and he's worked for many companies around the world, such as Blur Studios, Ubisoft, Guerrilla Games, and Marvel Entertainment, among many others. His biggest inspiration for his illustration is the geek universe, which led him to be the first artist ever to produce 3D cover illustrations for Marvel in Marvel history. So, Leticia and Victor, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you.
Great
Hello,
to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So with that, guys, I am going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
All right. So hello,
Yay.
everyone. That was a great description. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds very cool.
Yes, that sounded like so important.
Yeah. So this talk is going to be basically me and Victor, we got invited to present an event in Brazil. It's called Topia. And we both got invited separately, but then we're like, wow, we could do so much more if we combine our forces and did like one big presentation, since we're friends and everything. And this is the product that we're going to show to you guys. This is the product of friendship, a lot of hard work, and a lot of passion for what we do.
And calls.
Yes.
A lot of calls.
A lot of calls. So before we start, I'm going to show you guys here just a little bit. Well, you already heard about us, but yeah, we're both from Brazil, and I'm Leticia, Victor. And yeah, I don't think we have anything more to say besides the beautiful introduction. Okay, so let's go to next. So yeah, it's a cartoon that was very, very popular when we were kids, right, Victor? So
way too popular, to be honest. Way too popular, to be honest.
In Brazil, it was a huge cartoon, and obviously me and Victor, you know, have a lot of love for the show because we're both very into it when we were kids. So when we decided to do this project together, we're like, okay, so let's do something that we're both gonna love doing, not something that's more my style, his style, or whatever. But like, let's do something that's gonna be for both of us. And we did a session on Google, and then we've put in the paper some names of shows that we liked as a kid and things like that. And
I think it's been like an hour, looking for what the subject, right? We spent a lot of time doing that. We spent a lot of time doing that.
But the funny thing is that Saint Seiya was one of the first ones. But we're like, okay, but let's think about something else, and we spent time, and then we went back to the first idea anyway.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of the images for those of you who never watched it or anything. You know, it's an anime show, and it has been done in 3D before, so we're like, okay. There's a lot of cosplay, as you guys can see. which was a lot of our reference.
Yeah, great reference. Yeah, great reference.
Yeah. And also we kind of, and throughout the cartoon, there are many different variations of the armor for the characters. So that also something we had to take in consideration, like what kind of version of the characters we want to make. Because if you guys see here, like this, it's very different than this, but it's the same character, right? So that was the idea for the project. So after we picked what we wanted to do, we're like, okay, so let's think about the style, right? So we went on Google, right? Victor, do you want to say this part? Do you want?
Yeah, sure. So for the style, I thought that let's think what we're looking for. One thing that we have in mind, like we both like styles like Disney, styles like DreamWorks. We like this kind of style. And like when we're looking for the concept, we found ideas. We found it from Tom Presley, and he's a Brazilian artist.
Hold on, guys. We have some audio issues. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Pause it.
Adam, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, folks. Pardon the intrusion. We're just having a couple of audio issues on our platform. We're streaming to multiple platforms. We're streaming to multiple platforms tonight, so that the rest of the stream go effectively for us. So Victor, Leticia, thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. We'll have this up and running in a moment.
Hey, Leticia, can you check your OBS and make sure that it's not capturing audio?
Sure, it's not capturing my audio. How do I do that?
And then.
Okay. Wait, I think it is. Okay, I turned it off. Is it better?
All right, we're still working everything out here, folks. Just making sure there's no redundancies in the audio so everybody gets a nice, clean signal this evening. So my colleague Ray is taking care of that for us right now behind the scenes. And we're going to make sure that we get everything back on track for the stream as soon as possible for you. So thanks for bearing there with us.
Okay. All right. Can we go? Cool. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. So yeah, as we were saying, there's this. We did some research on this, on the subject, and since me and Victor, we both really like Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks style stuff. We kind of hit to this concept here, which is from an artist called Tom Presley, and he is actually a Brazilian artist as well. We didn't know him. And then we contacted him. It's like, hey, we love your work. Can we use that as inspiration? And he was like, yeah, sure. This is awesome. So it was pretty cool. So do you want to continue, Victor?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I don't think I have much more to say. Oh, yeah, do you have? Yeah. But so the idea was like combine Leticia modeling with my look dev skills. So the idea was pretty much to combine our powers.
Fusion our powers.
To be more precise.
So we kind of got like a little bit of Tom's concept, a little bit of the original cartoon, a little bit of Disney, Pixar, whatever, and we try to fusion with our way of seeing things as well, right? So
because Tom concept was great, but we want something. There was more closer to the original art, the original cartoon.
And then so that was kind of the idea, and then we had to set a pipeline. Okay, so this is the pipeline. So as you guys can see, I work mainly in Maya and ZBrush as a modeler. So I was doing a lot of ZBrushing in Maya back and forth, and some Photoshop here and there on my end. But then on Victor's end?
I was doing more like I used 3ds Max for rendering. I know some stuff about Maya, but I really don't like it. Like for look dev, it's not because it's bad. Just I really use it to work with 3ds Max, and also I use Corona render for the renders, and a lot of Substance Painter and Photoshop also for some post production.
So we had to kind of like communicate a lot because we're using a lot of different softwares, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So our process had to be clean. So for communication, we use Google Hangouts, and for file sharing, we use Google Drive. So basically, I'm based in LA. He is in São Paulo. So there's also the time difference. So we'll have to schedule meetings sometimes. That was very late in Brazil and things like that. But it kind of worked pretty well because of the communication.
Surprisingly well, to be honest.
Yeah, like send me this, send me that. This didn't work, and we're just always communicating. Google Drive was great because it was live in our computer. I'll upload, he'll get it there. He could change. I'll open here. So that was pretty good pipeline for us. Even though, as you guys can see, there we use different base softwares. But yeah, that was kind of our pipeline.
It was pretty fluid, to be honest. Like we have no problem like migrating the files from like one software to another, or even like dealing with the file update or transfers, because Google Drive was like super fast for that.
Yeah. And now I want to talk a little bit on my part, which is first the character modeling, then I'll talk about armor modeling. But for me, the moment we're like, okay, this is going to be our style. We're going to do what we love, which is kind of like Disney, Pixar, whatever style. So what we do first is to set a reference board, right? And it doesn't need like a gazillion of reference images. It's just those key images to keep you in shape with your goal, you know? So I just go on Google, obviously type Saint Seiya, whatever, and then I pick the key images for me. And the things I'm looking for when I'm doing that, for example, is like, this is very good for me to see how, for example, the leg would work, right? When I put it in. This one has a very clear idea. Let me put a different color here for you guys. This one, for example, has a very clear idea of how the armor supposed to be, you know. So I go almost like in my brain, I take my character and start breaking into parts that I need to search. So like armor search for the leg armor, the skirt piece and all of that. Like imagine it's much easier if you take the whole and you break into parts, and then you just gotta digest every single part slowly, right? So, and then you have the whole, right? So it's a bit overwhelming when you see like a piece with 5 characters that you gotta make it all this stuff. So that's kind of how I see it. I just break into parts and try to digest them as I go, you know. So with that said, this is the concept from Tom. So I was following this concept a lot for especially proportions for the character. And some of the silhouette changes as well, you know, like in the beginning, I was using this a lot as a reference. And then slowly we start adding a little more of the original to the character and going away a little from the concept. Just because it was our choice doesn't mean that the concept wasn't good or anything. So in this stage, as you guys can see, it's just collecting things. I see a lot of students collecting folders with 200 images. It's like you just need a handful of good images and you go with that. If you need more, you're going to feel the need and then you go look for more, you know? So in this part, it was mainly the reference search. This is some of the reference also, again, right? Like the original concept, a lot of the toys helped me a lot because they're supposed to work, right? To move working. So because we were going to put them in poses, I was like, oh, this is good to know that this piece can be this way. And then there's this piece. Because in a cartoon, sometimes it feels like it's all one piece connected, and that wasn't going to work for us, you know. We referenced some of Big Hero as well. And mainly the toys, I would say, for for even the big chunkiness of the pieces was very important for me. So after that, I'll send the image to Victor, and then he also gave me some notes so we could keep together with designing together, right? The characters and everything. So this is in Portuguese, by the way, but I will send him something. He's like you guys can see here. Oh, let's add this back. Let's add the kind of like iconic hair back instead of keeping the concept so and so. So it was very fun that way because we both felt like we're designing together. Okay.
I never like my super like really bad paint over.
No. So here's an example of kind of like some progress images. So here we have all the 5 characters, main characters. And as you can see, one of the things in the cartoon is that they're supposed to be on about 15 years old. And for some reason, never felt like that. They always felt older in the cartoon. And that was something we wanted to keep it. It's like we want to look at them and they look like 14, 15, you know? So we try to focus a lot on the age. So as you guys can see, you know, they have more kind of like cutesy kid-like feeling. Another thing was personality, because if you look at the cartoon, a lot of the changes are only in the hair. Like their faces are pretty similar, but the hair is the personality. So we're like, okay, we want to bring even more personality. So we start changing a little bit their faces. So as you guys can see, like Seiya, which is this one, he has kind of like the main character, heroic kind of vibe. And you have this one, for example, that has more like he's kind of the angry one all the time. And he has more like the angry, a bit more like squared jaw feeling to it. This one has a bit more like soft features. He's more emotional in the cartoon. He's like has a softer personality, you know. This guy was over here, for example, he's kind of always worried about stuff, you know, so we had to add even on the expression, but even on his shape, he's kind of like very sharp nose and sharp face and all that stuff. And this one is it's kind of like a little bit more on the almost in between, right, Victor? He's a bit more serious, I guess, but
he has like more focused guy, like.
Yeah. So we kind of kept, and we try to add a little more ethnicity to him than the other ones. So personality, it's so important, especially when you have characters that are similar height, similar body. Whatever you can add to create more personality to it, it's gonna be always best, you know, because it doesn't feel like Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V characters type of thing. Variations as well, like also in the hair, we wanted to bring it back the hair from the cartoon because, like I said, the hair was something that was very iconic for each character. So as you guys, well, this one you don't see the hair yet, but as you guys can see, there's very different kinds of hair, you know. And expression is a same thing. Like this one, it has a default expression, but we changed it. But as you can see, with time, I start sculpting the character already in expression just so we can really get the feeling of who they are, basically, you know? So I was really focusing on that, on like adding as much as I could of character to them on their face, the hair, the body shapes, and things like that. So this guy, for example, he has a bit more that kind of like triangular shape. This one is a bit more slim, kind of simple, and if we don't see the body of this one, but he has a little more curvature to it. And so those little things, it sounds like little, but when you add them together all in one cake, it makes a huge difference, right? So okay, so another thing was the body topology. So because we're kind of on time, we had a deadline, right? So we're like, okay, let's use the same topology for our characters because then we can, it's going to help us when we rig them. It's going to help with texturing because they're going to have the same UVs, same topology, at least for the body, right? and it's gonna improve our time. We're gonna save time with
Mm-hmm.
technical stuff, and then we're gonna have more time to do the artistic part of things. So as you guys can see here, we have Shun, character Seiya, and they both share the same topology. Everything's the same, but you can see here that I got enough changes to them on the face and the hair and stuff that they feel like unique characters, right? And again, the topology, it was very universal in a sense of like very clean and basic, so I can push for each character whatever I needed to do. But again, that really helps with rig, with texture, right, Victor?
Yeah,
And
they also share the same UV. So
same UVs.
I remember at some point we're like running out of time, and we have like yoga was the last one that we did, and we are so out of time that I just like morph like Seiya's body like to yoga. Just like, okay, it's gonna be like a morph target, and just like save it. Like it was super fast.
Yeah. It's called morph target in 3ds Max. For us Maya people, we say blend shape.
Sorry.
Blend shape.
Blend
so
shape.
We just blended the bodies, which is, and we save a lot of time doing that. Again, like that all happens with conversation, right? So you gotta up your communication skills, or else I was going to start something, Victor was going to do something else, and then we'll have way less time to be creative because we're dealing with technical stuff, you know what I mean? So that was cool. Okay, so that was kind of like the organic side of the characters to model. The next thing is the armor, right? So the armor, and my time on Overwatch taught me very well how to be a clean armor modeler, which is we do everything inside Maya, so it gets clean, sharp transitions, nothing's mushy. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it in ZBrush if you want to. I'm just saying for our look, we want a very clean, slim, kind of cut through design, So I did it all in Maya. And important thing is that I started with this character, but then every character I start doing, I was just adding to the same file, same scene in Maya. And why is that? You want to have consistency in bevels, for example, like any chamfer or bevels that you have in a certain area. You want to propagate that to other characters and other pieces so they feel like they're in the same world. They were made at the same place and they have the same scale. Imagine if I have a character with like very thin bevels and then I have another one with very thick ones. It's gonna look like they were made by two different people or something, right? So one thing is always, if you're making characters, always bring one character at least to the scene. While you're making one, you can kind of reference the other to kind of figure it out what you're doing. Another thing's for scale, obviously. So like I was bringing the characters so we can, besides all the things I told you guys to create variations for the characters, we also wanted height variations. As you can see, we have that kind of like height variation. And that's how you do it, right? You got to have everyone together so the head sizes feel like they're in the same world, but the bodies, all that stuff. And one very important thing is sharing. Like a lot of pieces, for example, not sure if this one, but for example, I took this piece and then I transfer over here and then I just change the shape, right? And I don't need to redo it from scratch. We did a lot of that on the legs. I did this leg and then I transfer here and then I start changing things. And because I work very, very low res, I was able to be able to change very easily stuff. And you guys will see how low res I work. But yeah, so this is kind of the armor. We have here a little bit of close-ups of the topology for those of you interested. So you can see this is very, very
really low.
And that's how I learned on my time at Blizzard. And I use it until today because if the art director, in this case, me and Victor, right? We were the art directors and his wife was also.
Yes.
But if someone came to us and said, oh, let's push this in, push it out. If I had dense topology, it would be like a nightmare, And with this kind of resolution, I can change anything I want, you know? So as you can see here, very basic. Like if you see here, I have 2 loops here, 1 loop in the middle, 1 here, 1 here. It's like very basic stuff. As low as I can get the shape right, I'll go. Because then if we need to edit anything, like look at this piece, is ridiculous. It like only has like 1 loop in the middle and that's it, you know? So that kind of stuff.
I just want to say something. When you sent me like that model, I was like, I think it's wrong, and I remember like I smoothed it out. I was like, wow, okay, it's right.
It works. You know what I mean?
But it works.
Yeah, it looks wrong, but it works. If it works, it's good. You know, especially obviously for hard surface, because something that is not gonna deform. In that case, obviously, for something that was going to deform, I'll need more loops. You know. So as you can see, very clean, very basic again. Like don't think about big shapes. Like every time I'm modeling anything, I think about the grand shape. And then I find that shape and slowly I go refining, you know. But if I was looking at this and I was like, oh, there's a curve here, and then I'll be like 1, 2, 3 to hold a curve, and then there's another one here, 1, 2, 3, and you know, you can start having like super dirty meshes for no reason, which makes so hard for you to adjust if needed, you know. So that's one of the things about hard surface modeling. Another thing that is controversial, let's say, it's n-gons. So n-gons, for those of you who don't know, normally you want your mesh to be quads, right? You want 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. And that's totally fine that we want that, okay? But when you're designing in Maya, I want to design. I don't want to design and think about topology at the same time. So a lot of times I design my things. I start adding chamfers and gons. Like if you look here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a 5 side. But because I want to be as clean as possible and low res as possible. If I were to hold that edge over there, for example, I will have to put 1 loop going through here, right? 1 loop going through here. I'm already creating more stuff. 1 loop here, 1 loop here, and then and this is a simple example, but if it's something curved, it's even worse. So I love n-gons. N-gons help you design things without worrying about topology. And then people ask, but Leticia, the end product, you can just subdivide once. It's going to be solved. You don't need to worry about that, you know? So n-gons are good for what? They keep your model very low res, like you can see. Very easy to clean. Easy to find the shapes. Again, like I don't want to worry about my topology all the time. I just want to design my shapes and then worry about topology. And it's easy to make adjustments. So it's very easy to clean. Like if I send this to Victor and he was like, let's make that bevel a bit bigger. I just go here, collapse this bevel, and do a bevel again and make it bigger. I don't need to do anything else. Okay? So as you can see, if I show you guys my model, there's tons of n-gons going on the model. Again, because I'm trying to be low res and clean on the design side. And then I'm going to worry about that. Cool? All right. So just while we're talking about n-gons, can you guys see my Maya? I think so, right?
Yep.
So this is the file, the Maya file. And as I was talking about, right, if I zoom in, as you can see, it's as low res as I can make it. And it looks clean. But if you zoom in some areas, you're going to find some weird stuff. Not here, though. I cleaned it. Check it out. But sometimes I didn't. So if I zoom in, for example, on a piece like this, you're going to see like some weird n-gons around. And this is a flat plane. Who cares if there's an n-gon there? You know what I mean? It's going to render fine. There was a time where renders wouldn't render n-gons or whatever. That's not it anymore. So we're past that.
Yeah, it's 2020, guys.
Yeah, it's 2020. Let's move on. So as you guys can see on a piece like this, right? It's very simple. As you can see, I just have like, instead of running this all the way through the piece, I have this little end-on here, this little bevel. And if Victor came to me and said, Leticia, let's make this bevel bigger, I come here, I just collapse, boop, and then I select it again, and I make the bevel bigger or whatever, and just adjust this, and or smaller in this case. Okay. That was good. Great demo. So, yeah, a lot of pieces here. Like this is that piece I was talking about, where it's like so ridiculous low res, as you can see, but it holds the shape well. And at the end, I could just come here and do a little subdivision, like boom, and then it's subdivided. Oh, it looks great. But I model super low res, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of it. Let me see if there's any other piece. One of the things also, we're gonna get to it, but some things I could have modeled, but then Victor took it over on the look that side. So yeah, there's not much here. It's very simple, basic shapes. If you guys see, again.
But again, like, all those decisions were based on on communication.
Right.
I think that's something really important, like to stress.
Look at this. Anywho, so as you can see, you don't need to be a mastermind.
It doesn't look right. It's kid. Wow. Yeah. I'm surprised.
It works. Anyways, so before we go back here, hopefully you guys understand that I'm not saying you should submit meshes with endcones, but it helps you to design things. So another very important thing that I learned with time, it's material separation. So like even in a modeling process, you want to have visual interest on separation of pieces. So I could potentially just do this piece as one thing and throw a metal shader on it. But we decided like we want metal. We want a little trim, like this red trim here, which is a detail, which also going to have a different kind of roughness or glossiness on it. And then underneath, we have a very contrasting material like rubber that creates that kind of matte feeling. And also because rubber is going to make the metal not touch the body directly, right? So it makes sense also. It's like it's supposed to be constructed that way. So different roughness. So let's say we have like a super shiny metal, a little soft shininess on the red, and super soft on the rubber. You're creating in one piece 3 layers of visual interest, and that's very important because it creates a very simple piece, very dramatic visual complexity, right? So visual contrast, that's what I was going for here. And at the end, you get this. So this is my part, right? This is with the wireframes on. Not the hair. I didn't do the hair. Victor's going to talk about it. But this is kind of like what my side of the product was. And now I hand over the mic to Victor. And he's going to talk about the cool stuff.
Oh, yeah. Super cool. The cool part that no one wants to learn. Look at that. Okay, so for the look dev, just like Leticia mentioned, like at first I used to get a reference. Usually, like when I do fun arts, and I do a lot of fun arts, I go for 3 main like sources: the original material, other people interpretation, and cosplayers. Since usually like Saint Seiya cosplayers, it's kind of rare to find like some really good ones, like Leticia showed. So I choose to focus like on what other people did and the original material. So what other people did, as some of you knows, Netflix made an animation about it, like pretty recent, like I think last year, and this year we got the 2nd season. And on 2013, I can't remember the year. There was like a Japanese movie. It was like and was like cool, but some kind of like way too like off the original source. So my idea was like, okay, let's see like those two references and see what I like it and what I don't like it, and what are my goals. So first thing, I was looking for balance, like uh, like for example, the Japanese one, like the first movie, or the one on the top, is like super detailed, like way too detailed in my opinion, like for what we are aiming for. And the second one is like way closer to the original material, but I still don't like some stuff. Like the hair, for example. I think like it's way too simple. And but the second one thing that I really like it's the fact that they kept like way closer to the anime.
Mhm.
Like you can see like it's you. For example, if you look on the one at the top, you can barely like say that the guy in the middle, it's Yoga. You if I show like only like who's this guy, you wouldn't know that it's Yoga from Saint Seiya. And if you see Yoga on the image on the bottom, you can see that it's Yoga. It's really like recognizable. So my idea was to keep that like that highly recognizable look on the characters for like the look dev, and like push forward. Like for example, what you can do more than what they did. We don't want to like copy. We want to go beyond what they did. So that was my idea for the like my original idea for the armors. You can go for the next one, Leticia.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So just one thing, it's like we really
Yeah.
wanted to see this stuff and also respect the source material.
Yeah.
So like we picked what we like, what we didn't like, and we wanted again to go beyond what we're seeing out there so far for it. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to like copy. We don't want to like do better. Like push
Okay.
the bar. And just like Leticia said, one thing that I really want to push was like the personality of the saints on their armor, on the look dev side. So I thought, okay, let's try to bring some of their personalities, on the armors, on the shading. For example, Seiya, it's that the main reference was like white bronze. I didn't even know that kind of a thing existed. So, but when I found out, like, okay, this is gonna be like his armor gonna be like white bronze, and since he's like kind of rebel and like to defy things on the anime, I bring like on the red side of his armor, I want to bring some car paint, something more like wild to his look. Shiryu, his armor is based on jade, because I think he's half Chinese. I can't remember very well, but he trained in China. So I want to bring like this kind of like Chinese tone like thing. Shun, his armor is based like on the legend of the princess of Andromeda, the princess Andromeda, who was given like a sacrifice for, I can't remember who, but she was given like a sacrifice for something from the sea. And so since like is a princess, and like the princess Andromeda had this relation with the sea, I decided to make like some kind of like pearl look armor. And Yoga, since he's like ice, ice kind of thing, like cold powers, I decided to make like some kind of like some like frozen metal, like condensed metal on his armor, and push the like his armor and Seiya are both are like silver, but I want to push like some kind of bluish to make like some like colder look on his armor. And for Iki, since he's like a phoenix, like a firebird, I decide, and he's like super like fierce person, like he's angry at the time. I decided to push like this fire look on his armor. Like all the red parts of this armor, they're like super hot metal. That's why my main idea for the armors. Those are also our prints from Substance Painter, just for your information.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And yeah, you wanna say
here.
something, Leticia? Oh, okay,
No,
cool.
I'm just showing you work.
And as you can see, like they're like super close to the original colors, but I made some small changes to bring like more personality, like you mentioned. I think you can go for the next one and explain like more of those details.
Oopsie. Let me put this back here.
Oopsie.
Okay. All right. Go for it.
Cool. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, we made a lot of like communication with Leticia about like how we could, what can do like model and or what can be done in a look dev side. So it would like be easier for me, and Leticia won't like have to spend like a lot of time modeling. So there's no reason for her to model things that I can solve easily on look dev. So this is like a breakdown for the process for the armor. First thing I did was like paint the base, like check the colors, like found a good palette, and like my shader idea. First, this is one like really cool tip that Leticia gave me. To paint some gradients on the armor, like top down gradients, so you can like fake an occlusion and bring more volume. It's super cool. I like suggesting. I'm using like on every project now. Maybe I'm using too much right now. And this like brings more volume and kind of help to separate the pieces to not be like a flat thing. And the third part of it is I painted some details, like a lot of details, like color variation and some like mid details, like paintings and things like that. And after that, I added some really nice like lines, which would be like way harder to do in modeling, right, Leticia?
Correct. There's some lines here.
Yeah, so those small lines and like it's something that it's easier for me to experiment on Substance Painter, and like just try out like sketching some lines, see if I find a good design, then to make on like ZBrush or something. Also, the one cool thing for some parts we use displacement. For example, for icky legs, we that part is it's on the model. It's like it's flat, and I made like a quick gradient to break up that part and bring more more information to look more complex.
Right. So
it was super fast to do that.
Shape. So I did one simple shape, and then in Substance he just create this gradients on displacement, and then he made it more complex.
Yeah, it was super like 10 minutes to do that, and it's easy to adjust if you need it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and there you can see some close-ups for the armor. Like they look clean when you look from far, but you look closely, you can see like some really like micro scratches and like roughness variations. This kind of thing I like to work like really subtle. It's not something that you see like, look, there's a lot of like variation and subtle. Like, look, my metal, it has like scratches. No, it's something that it looks natural. Why? And when you look closer, you see all the variation. For me, it's kind of details that need to be like something that you only see on a second look, but on the like from the get go.
And I had a teacher. I have a teacher. He's still my mentor, called Rafael Souza. He's also a Brazilian artist, and he talks a lot. I love the reference he makes. He talks about like the voices, right? When you have a lot of people singing, there are some people are going to be on a lower tone, lower volume. Some people are going to be higher, more emphasis on their voice and things like that. So you think about your details in your model like the voices. It's like, what is the most important voice? Are the big shapes, right? And then we focus on that. So for example, the metal, like Victor was saying, like from far we can tell it's metal. And then if you get closer, it's almost like you're giving voice to that metal to talk to you, but it's not supposed to be the big voice when you look at it. You know what I mean? Same thing with those little lines that Victor added. Is like those are like those low voices in the background that just adds much to the story, but it's not the main singer. You know what I mean? So it's important to think about that because sometimes we see some work that everything is super high detail and there's no areas of rest, no areas of lower interest where it's just supposed to be there. You know, it's you got to think about the word contrast, where like you have rest areas, you have more intense areas, and different layers of it, basically.
I have like I have the same like example, but with food. Just for your information.
Okay. Let me.
Can you go for the next one?
Oh, okay. So this is for the armors. Next,
okay.
Come for characters.
Characters, yay!
Here we go. All right, go for it.
Okay, cool. So, like we're talking, like Leticia made like some really like nice and clean characters, like she was saying on the armor side modeling. So I want to I wanted to bring that for the characters as well. And it's kind of tricky because sometimes like when you want to do like some really, I like to do more realistic shaders, not too simple, not like too optimized. But sometimes you need to keep balance, you know, like how much detail you want to bring to your character. Sometimes like you would need to, okay, I want to make my skin here looks real, so I'm gonna add pores and I'm gonna add like sweat and fur and fuzz and peach fuzz and all the thing. And sometimes I got, oh, this is so creepy. This is look like so creepy. And sometimes you don't know why. I'm not saying that, and it's why, because you need to find the balance for the rest of the style you're working on. You know, for example, in Frozen, Elsa is like she has like this super clean like skin. She doesn't even have like pores. I think I can remember to like pore information on her skin. Even like it's a really subtle like glossiness variation and things like that. And but for in contrast, like in Detective Pikachu, you can see like they keep the simple shades for the character, but since it's based on like in a real world, they need to be like super real. They print for a lot of details, you know, and I love details. Yeah, I like to add details, but I need to know like I'm not talking about a real world, you know. So what I did, I kind of trying to find like a balance, like not too clean as Elsa, but not too detail as Charizard. There's this example, like it's a character that I did. It's Kaito from a studio in Brazil called Mad Boogie Creations. And what I did was like this is one of my first try with the character, and I had like details like air badges, like eye bags, like pores, some even like some kind of like weird information. You know, it's way too detailed, and it started to look like creepy. You know, he's looking like through your soul. He has like this super creepy like feel, you know, because I just want like to add details and make things like, oh, this is all gonna be like look like realistic, and I don't want to look realistic. I want to feel realistic. There's a huge difference on that. You know, like for me, like realism is more than like something that you know as real, but you don't know why because it feels real. It feels like it feels like tangible. You know, it's not because you add details. It's the balance of details, as you can see, like on the one on the right. I made like way more balance, like on the design and to talk with the character design. You know, it's a clean design, so we need like a cleaner shader and maps. Okay.
Okay. Let me just adjust the size here.
Okay.
Right. Next. Oop.
One thing that I want to bring, like, I love to bring extra details on my work. Just like Leticia mentioned, like for the singers, I have this example for food, like I mentioned. I think it's gonna work now. Uh, Imagine like that your work it's a really like nice dish, not dish. I forgot the word. Leticia, help me.
Yeah,
It's a food in a restaurant, like a fancy food in a restaurant.
mm-hmm.
You know, and at first when you got like the food on your table, you're looking at, oh, it's impressive, it's so like nice, I want to eat it. But when you start looking like for, oh, look at this, look at like how like what inch how much like detail they put on the food, you start to appreciate it before you eat. And when you eat, you start to like to feel all the flavors. And this is how I like to think of my work, like you get impressed at first, and when it's like to flavor it, like to feel all the flavors, all like the the details and all the attention that we put on it. And the eyes, for me, it's like the high point of that. For example, I love 2D eyes because they are more than like just like emulate realistic eyes. They don't look for, okay, iris, like all the like this like the information, iris realistic information, and black and the black. I forgot the name of the black thing in the eye.
The pupil.
The pupil. Yeah. Thank you. In black pupil, and I want to bring more than that because the first thing when you look for a camera, when you look for someone, is the eyes. So I want to bring more to the eyes. Since they are like Knights of the Zodiac, I want to add like some play with that. And every eyes on all the eyes on the all the iris on every character, you can see like there's a star field in it.
Because
Just
me as a modeler, even though I do some texturing sometimes, it's like when he sent me this file of the eye, I'm like, what the hell? But it was good, because it just gives this kind of 2D, kind of 3D feeling, and it's so nice, to see something like that instead of just like, a bunch of stuff going on a cartoon character. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I want to bring like this kind of like different iris because if you see like 2D works, like 2D animes, mostly in like, for example, Lois's work, you see so many cool like approaches to eyes. Just like they're like so interesting. You'd spend a lot of time like just staring at the characters, and the more you stare, you can see like so many interesting things they add to the eyes. So I every time that I do add like a 3D character, I try to bring those like 2D things to them. I love the eyes. Also, one cool thing, it's the same way that like I gave like notes to Leticia. She also gave a lot of notes to me, and this is how we work it. Like always giving notes to each other, and also like taking decisions. For example, on my first version of Seiya's outfit, I tried to bring this kind of like modern look to it, and that was kind of like screwing the character because we have like this like glossy like specky like outfit and specky armor, so like there's no contrast on the character. It's not like interesting. And kind of like if you see on the original cartoon, they are like have like this super like cotton simple like jumpsuit, and we try to bring this back, and it's cool that you talk back to the original source, to the source material, and also have to break the contrast. Also happy to break the contrast on the character. Like this glossy and like super glossy, super rough things. It brings way more interesting like visual to the character.
Yeah, like if you guys see on this piece, here instead of high tech kind of shiny, we added the cotton, and then it kind of contrasts much better with the amount of metalness he has, right? All the
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and yeah.
And there's also like some really cool note that Alicia made about the hair on Shiyu's hair. If you see like on this iteration, for me it was like, okay, the hair is super good, and I sent to her, and she's like, nope, nope,
Do it
you can
again.
push it more.
Try harder. No, I'm joking.
Try hard. You can do better than this.
Do
Not
better.
quite my tempo. So one thing that we knew from the get-go that would be really important is the hair. You know, like Leticia mentioned on the modeling side, the hair are like adds a lot of character of like character for them. You know, like they have all this 80s super like glam metal hairstyle with a lot of like sideburns and things like that. So we wanted to bring that. At first, my idea for the hairs, I want to like animated hair that can be like simulated like for production. And I think it took like 2 weeks to make like Seiya's hair. It took a lot of time, way more time than we had. And we decided, okay, this is not gonna work. We need to speed up. So we made like another. We decided to go like for another technique for the hair. So for the hair, we made like this. We decided to because like I said, the hair are so character like the hair's like so much character in the hair and like under there's some kind of like right angle so to match the perspective for the hair and you know the silhouette tells a lot of the hair and it's kind of hard to find the right like shape when I work with guides. So what I did, I modeled the hair and convert it to actually like hair strands. It was way faster to do that. For the hair, I use Ornatrix for 3ds Max, and now I'm going to break down how I did that, how to speed up that process. How I use it.
Go for it.
Okay. So for the hair, I use something like Ornatrix. I think it's hair from planes, hair from cards. I can't recall the name. And it's basically this. I model like a hollow tube or a plane. In case Shiryu was a plane because he has like this super sleek hair. So his hair doesn't go like for tubes. It's more like this sleek hair shape. And what we did, what I did for the hair, I think this one was you modeled, right, Leticia?
Yeah, this one, he gave me kind of like this tube, and I start placing around. So the important thing I learned from Victor about hair is not just like taking a tube and place a bunch of tubes, is really play that with that idea of big, medium, and small. You know. So as you guys can see, we have like a big tube here, and then kind of like a medium tube, and then a little smaller one, and that kind of gives a more natural feeling instead of feeling that all the clumps are all the same size. And so he gave me this to me. He taught me like, okay, let's do this way, and then I just start placing it. So for some flyaway stuff, as you can see, they're like smaller. For feeling areas, I did a bigger one, and then Victor cut it in like 3 pieces. You know, like he was cutting as he needed. But yeah.
And and one really important thing for hair, it's to add breakups to like make it look more natural. You know, even if you were doing like anime hair, sometimes you do anime hair, it's like, oh, my hair looks so like blocky, and I don't know why. If you look for like real hair, you know that like long hair, you can see like there's this trend like really straight, but you can see like some fly outs going like curvy, and this kind of like shape variation is really interesting and gives way more a natural look for the hair, you know. So technical, like speaking more, get back to the more technical part. All these tubes, they have like UVs, so I can map the hair, make like, I don't know, the hood darker and the tip bright, like lighter. And it helps to like some kind of like fake occlusion for the hair, and gives a lot of volume to it. Because if you don't have like color variation, it would look flat, and it's hard to see like the nice like clumps that we did. And but this kind of method, it's super fast to do, but it has its problems. It's kind of like game modeling hair, and because of that, you can't simulate the hair. It doesn't work for production if you need to simulate that. And also it doesn't it give you it for more than work, it always will have like this clumpy feel. It's always look like clumps, like anime hair. I know that Maya, this one was made in 3ds Max. I know that XGen and Maya has something similar. You can generate from tubes, I guess, but there's a big difference. On XGen, you need to root the base of your tube. You need to be like connected to the root of the scalp. And in this case, we don't need it.
Yeah, if you have the scalp, like, and I want a tube like this, I will have to like have this part, the root part, like connected to the root and coming out. Where on Ornatrix, we could have like tubes flying like this, and it would connect for you.
Yeah, it's really good for if you want to like find the visual of your hair. It's really, really good, and saves a lot of time. It saves us a lot of time. And it was good also because like if we were working on with guides, I was the only one who could do that. And with tube hair, Leticia could help me a lot with that. So we can both like work on hairs at the same time.
Cool.
Yep.
Next up, rigging.
Rigging and posing. Yeah. So for the rig, usually like people for like if not an animation, people just do the transpose in ZBrush, and it's not that it's bad, but I don't like it because I like to experiment like different poses, because pose tells a lot, like tells a lot for the character. You can like bring out like a lot of personality for the character just by like posing him. And but we weren't so sure like how the pose would work. So for that, I like to experiment. I use like an auto rig. For 2ds Max, I use one called L8 auto rig. Leticia used another one for Maya, right?
Yeah, I use the rapid rig or the human eye kit on Maya too. They're both good.
Yeah, and it saves a lot of time. You're gonna spend like some time like skinning and things like that, but you don't have to do like super ready for animation rig. It's just something that can help you pose the character, to experiment for different angles, and things like that. Another cool thing about having the character rigged, it's because sometimes like when we posed him, for example, Iki, when we posed him, we felt that his hands were like too small.
And the head also, right? It was too big.
Yeah, and his head was way bigger than it was supposed to be. It was looking like super big. And I think his feet too, we make like his feet bigger. So we could play with this kind of proportions like super fast. Really, really fast.
And we could, it was fun also because he will have the rig and we will be in the call, and I'll be like, oh, let's try moving the arm a bit behind.
Yeah.
And it was all constructive in a way that it's like, we're not breaking anything inside ZBrush to make it work. We could go back if we needed, So rigging takes a little time, but if you really want to create different poses, different feelings, it's very crucial. I feel like for the time consuming how it is to do in ZBrush, and it's so destructive.
Yeah. Especially like I remember like Iki, we have like a lot of like experimenting for his pose. Right. A lot of experimenting. Like I remember we made just one. There was one call, like we made a call just for like Iki's pose.
Right.
We spent a lot of time on that. And like I mentioned, for example, when at the very end, when I was doing yoga, we ran out of time, and like since the Seiya was already posted, I just like transferred I just make a blend shape, like to swap his body, like the body proportions, you know, and was like, okay, Iggy, like, yoga's ready. Next.
The last character we did it together, like my part and his part was like 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, 2 to 3 days. It was super like fast.
That we were like boom, 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 and I was sending things to him. He was structuring, sending back to me. It was like crazy.
Yeah. We need to do more of that. Yeah, and these are the characters like posed and rendered with lookdev, and this is like from my lookdev setup. Light setup. It's just like one key, light, green light, and ATD RI for
and one light,
for
right?
light. Yeah, there's two light actually, like a key one, like a back, and the ATD RI for the ATD RI is the one like really like call, like the one like calls it.
Right.
The backlight just like for some like hair translucence, just to check that, you know.
Yeah. And this was awesome because like we're like, yay, we got all these characters, they look cool individually, we put them together, all right, whatever. So now what, right? It's like we got to a point where we're like, we're missing something. We're missing.
Yeah.
We need to go beyond just characters in a way. We felt like a bit empty after the end, even though the results were pretty cool. We're happy with. We kind of like, well, we want something.
It feels
more.
like a model show off for now. It was like
look dev, kind of like we're trying to sell ourselves as artists, and it wasn't that the intention. We wanted to make something cool with the characters, and then.
Yeah, I came with this. We came with this idea, like, hey, what about a poster, a movie poster, you know? And I started to sketch some ideas, like, okay, let's see how we can make like a movie poster work. And I started like looking for like team posters, like X-Men or Ocean 11, and also, one thing that came to our mind was like, okay, so a poster needs to tell. It's a easy way to tell a story, right? So, but what story are we telling?
Yeah.
And since we made like the first like armors, we decided to make like the 12 Temple Saga. It's the most like, in my opinion, it's like one of the coolest Saint Seiya sagas. And it's super cool because it starts like on noon or mornings in the morning, I guess, and go like through all day, you know.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be cool like this to explore that, you know, since it's a great adventure. We started like to think about, okay, so it's the beginning of the adventure, you know. Right. And so for the beginning, we decided to go for this dawn lighting, you know, like the morning, like early morning light. It's a warm lighting, it's a positive lighting, but it tells like something's beginning, the beginning of something.
Right. We wanted this kind of like hopeful feeling. They're all young, ready to do whatever in the show that they need to do, you know. So that kind of vibe, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Also, since this is based on the first idea for the poster is this sketch that I did. Originally, I wanted to Iki to be like portrayed as the bad guy, so it's like just like foreshadowing the characters, but it wasn't working. You know, it wasn't working at all. I don't know. It's kind of like it wasn't working, so we decided to make him like one of the good guys at the end. So one thing that I want to bring was this anime look, like mood from some animes. I remember that I just watched Your Name, and after like crying for like 15 minutes straight, I was like, I love the lighting of this anime. It's so good. It's so good. It's so like warm and like and positive. And I want to bring that for the poster, for the lighting. And I think this is it, right? Oh, another thing. One thing I forgot. It's since it's placed on in Greece, I want to bring like this Greek thing. So I look for like some Greek temples reference, and I found like Zeus temple, and I was like, okay, this is perfect for what I wanted. And like all the vegetation, like also from Greece, like this. The temple is on the higher ground, and all the like vegetation go like just cutting the horizon, and you can see like some mountains in the back, and it's cool because the 12 temples, they are on a mountain. They have to climb, so like it's perfect temple for like vegetation and mountain in the back. So that was like the perfect composition that I wanted. So I think we can go for the last one. Yeah. So like I mentioned for the environment, I think the environment was like super fast, right?
Yeah, you did.
I think I did like in 2 days or 1 day. I can't remember. It was super fast.
It was 1.5 days, probably.
1.5 day, yeah. Because since I know what I wanted, I could like optimize my work at most. Like, okay, I know like the angle because I block it on Photoshop, and I know the composition that I had in mind. So I just like focusing on modeling like things that I needed. The pillars, they are just one pillar, like they're just rotated to look different in other angles and break up like after with like some bevel, not bevel, some booleans. That's how I break the pillar, and some displacement. The vegetation, I used some some old assets that I had to save some time. The mountain, I think like it's a bunch of spheres, and I put them on ZBrush and use the Dynamesh to collapse them all, and add a bunch of noises to make it look natural. And one cool thing about the mountain is that you can't see on the first time you look, because you really focus on the characters. But when you start like looking through the illustration, you can see like the 12 temples on the background, which Leticia modeled like in like 30 minutes.
They're boxes.
You made it so fast. And one thing that I like to, there's like a lot of things going on the background, like a lot of information, but I like it to bring like this kind of like monotone, because I didn't want like the environment to fight with the characters. So it's all like this like it's pastel. It's like that, right? Like pastel tones.
Pastel colors,
Yeah.
monochromatic feeling, as much as we.
Kind of like more bland look than the characters. The characters are like super like vibrating colors, and the environment is like way like more harmonic. There's no like any crazy color like popping up from the background. They are like talking with each other. Even the sky that is blue, like it's like really like soft blue, so it won't fight with the characters. Also, since I want to push the distortion, there's some distortion from the camera, for you can see from the stair, and like right in the front. There's some distortion, but for the pillars, they were way too flat, so I bend them up to push the proportion, to push the distortion, to exaggerate it, like this lane distortion, and also to bring more information, like to embrace, the composition. And also some like depth of field to like really for the foreground and the background doesn't draw any attention more than I wanted to.
Here where the character's supposed to be, everything else is kind of soft and blendy almost to become like not calling any attention.
Yeah, it's kind of like a blurry, but not that blurry.
Yeah. And then we made the fan poster. There's a fan poster, people. It's not coming out.
It's not happening. It's a fan. Don't worry. We are not destroying your childhood. It's not happening.
Poster, guy.
Some people got really mad about that.
Anyways, but yeah, that was the final product. So as you guys can see, the background did not call any attention, like Victor said, because the characters are so contrasty and saturated. The background just kind of adds story, but again, it's like a lower voice, where the characters are the higher voice. And
there's one story we forgot to mention about Yoga's look.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we were talking and I couldn't find any cool blonde reference for Yoga, and I was like, okay, I need something blonde and kind of that someone that can have ice powers, and we decided to make Yoga just like Elsa. He has the same skin color and hair color that Elsa.
Yeah,
and also
we're like, let's make him Elsa.
Yeah, he's gonna be our Elsa.
Yep. And he has kind of Elsa mood as well sometimes.
Yeah, the blue also matches the Elsa blues and the eye color. It's like he has the same palette than Elsa.
Yeah.
And one thing that just want to play with poster to add a title and some nice catchphrase from the original cartoon.
Yeah. And as you can see, again, we really wanted that vibe of very hopeful vibe where they're just gonna start their adventure,
Yeah.
So the lighting, the colors, their facial expressions, everything is like a sensation of let's go, kind of like a light to it.
Like the beginning of the adventure. I mean, they're going to die on this saga, but we don't have to know that for now.
That was it, I think, right, Victor? It's it took us about how long? It was 2.5 months.
2.5 months, yeah. It's work on the spare time.
Yeah, on our spare time, we were doing we stop working, eat dinner, start working on this, and then we'll start sending stuff to him, and he'll send stuff to me. So it was a lot of passion, It requires, that's one of the things, you gotta kind of create a certain level of discipline to be able to do this kind of stuff. And the cool thing about working with Victor was that I will send something to him, he'll get hyped, and then he'll do a bunch of cool stuff, and he'll send to me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do better, and then I'll do in a month. So this feeling of we got so inspired.
We're all hyping each other.
We're hyping. I'm like, damn, I need to up my game, and then I'll go. So it was pretty fun that way, and obviously it makes everything much more worth it than if we're oh yeah, whatever, just put the hair, blah blah blah, So especially, I would say, especially on your guys' personal projects, do things that you care about, that you're gonna have fun, because that's your time to do your thing, to put your voice out,
And not the coach for an art director or something like that.
Right. A lot of people well, what should I do? A lot of people posting cars. I should do cars. Do you like doing cars? Great.
Yep.
If you don't do cars, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how at least I go by with my personal project decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, one thing that was really, really cool, it's that since we are friends, the communication was so I forgot the word, Leticia, help me. so
natural.
clean, so natural. Yeah, so fluid. That was the word. So fluid. Like we are always open to take suggestions from each other, and there's no like hard feelings when someone like make an adjustment on each other's work, because we knew that was we are pushing ourselves to make something better. Was that at any point it wasn't like a competition to make to like sabotage any other works, you know, because we're doing together at the final piece will like be like all works combined.
Right.
So every time like we're pushing to make better, and like
Victor,
having our friendship.
our critique, would show stuff to her, and she'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, his head is too big," and then she'll go away, and we're like, "Okay." No, we're super cool, you know. And again, like as many people as you can show your work on progress is the best, because sometimes you get so used to some decisions you made that you don't see it anymore, that it could potentially be better if you scale up, if you scale down, you know. So that's why, like, a lot of times I'll be showing, Victor will be showing to his wife, I'll show to my husband, and we'll show to friends that what they would think, you know, because
Yeah.
you get very used to it. It shapes very fast. So
Yeah. And also, sometimes like it's good. Like for my wife, she's not an artist. She doesn't work with like 3D, but she's someone that look at art. You know, at the end, you need to remind that at the end of the day, not only like your 3D friends will look at your work, everyone will look at your work. So everyone will give feedback at your work and share their thoughts about it. Not only like the 3D peeps, you know.
that's right. And I think that's it. I think we can open for questions now. What do you think, Victor?
Yep. Let's go.
Do you have anything for us, Adam?
We have got a lot of questions that have come in, guys.
Wow.
So I'm going to do my best to get to all of them, but the chat has been really active while you guys have been sharing your presentation. So first off, we have, and I'm going to try to do your names justice, guys. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but looks like Shadows Age THP is asking, it's kind of a two-part question. They said, when do you go for particle-based hair as opposed to mesh-based hair? Also, when in use for animation, doesn't mesh-based hair provide less flexibility as compared to particle-based systems?
You want to take over?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So usually like mesh-based hair, for example, if we're talking about like hair cards, first the visual, it's a big difference. Like that's my main choice. Usually I don't go for like hair card, like opacity, something like that. I usually like go for like real like particle based hair. Even when I'm doing like the tube hair, at the render you see like it's like real strands. So I usually like go for mesh based hair only if like the like the art direction really driving that way, you know. Otherwise, like 99% of my choices would be particle based hair, because I think it look better. It looks more like natural. And for animation, so mesh based hair, you can. I don't know. I'm not like a game artist. I just do like things for animation. I'm not like some like tech guy, but as far as I know, like mesh based hair, you can't simulate. You can do like some like really like intricate simulation, like wind and like collisions and things like that. And particle based hair, you can do that kind of stuff. So for like cinematic productions, I think like if you want to like simulate and go things like that, go for particle based hair.
Yeah, if you're doing for games, you know, there's some riggers they will use soft body, which when the character moves, the hair kind of bounces a bit, you know, or
Some wiggling.
a rig to the hair. Sometimes when I was working on Overwatch, depending on the hair, you add a rig to the hair, and then the animator would animate the decisions of the hair, not the dynamics, anything physical, you know. But I'm sure, like AAA, kind of like I don't know, Last of Us or whatever, they probably have a technique for it, right? It's just we're not in touch with that.
Okay, while we're on the subject of hair, we've got another hair-related question. Do you use the existing topo from the hair mesh to extract guides to follow the shape of the hair?
I usually I take the scalp mesh, but I do some modifications because of the hairline. Because if you go like straight from the topology, you get like really weird hairline. Doesn't look natural. So I take the mesh, change it to match the hairline, and then I go like create the guides. That's how I go do it.
Okay. The next question is from, it just says junk account. What about modeling with ngons for use in game engines? Is it still okay to include them in previews and not in final modes?
No, do not do that for games. Okay, so for what you can do is this on your high res, use as many ngons as you want. Don't even fix it, because for the rule for games is if it looks good, it's good. For baking, you're gonna bake the high res to a low res. Your low res mesh needs to be super clean, quads and tris only. But your high res can be as dirty as you want, as long as it looks good, it's gonna bake good, So that's the rule. Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Axel1283. Could you show us the UVs for the Phoenix armature? Is that possible?
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot. But I can talk about it if you want it. So one thing that I did, remember that when I mentioned that there's a lot of gradients. So one thing that I found was way easier to paint those gradients, like if I had like my UV all aligned like on the same direction. Not it's, for example, the calf armor. Let's say that the calf armor, it's I can save a lot of like UV space if I put it like on a horizontal. But for painting, it was like making my life way harder than it's supposed to be, because I knew I could like group things and use the same gradient to paint them. So I made like some groups of like vertical UVs so I can paint easier, And for the Phoenix armor, there's just a single. No, there's two UDIMs, one for the metal parts and a second one for the rubber parts. I think that is all that I can explain about it. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
You want to show it?
All right.
I don't.
If you want to share my screen, it's
Oh,
I do have it.
Yeah. Oh, great. That's perfect. Thank you, Leticia, for saving my life.
If you share the screen, I'll show it here.
Yeah, it's already showing.
Oh, it is? Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what we're saying. Like all the similar pieces, they're in similar direction. So you can easily select and create gradients instead of all rotating crazy in the UV.
Yeah. Like I can cover like a lot of pieces with the same gradient map, that saves a lot of time. And for the rubber, you can see like since I didn't have this mapping, this like direction thing, I just like put it anywhere, just auto pack,
Yeah.
It's super messy.
You don't need to share anymore.
Thank you for saving my life.
So the next question is from Akira Shibazaki. Hey, Victor, do you use XGen for doing hair?
Nope. Nope. I used to back at Disney because they use Maya, but since my main software, my to-go software is 3ds Max, and just because the one that I learned like 15 years ago, and I'm too lazy to learn a new one, and I just use like 3ds Max 3ds Max plugin called Ornatrix.
Okay, cool. So next one is from Laura Hamann. She just wants to know how long was this process from start to finish?
Hi, Laura. It was about 2 months, 2.5 months. Something.
2.5 months, yeah.
The first character.
Not working every day.
Yeah, we're working on after work hours.
Yeah.
It was 2 weeks that we took off from the project.
Yes.
But let's say 2 months. But it was so good in the sense of like we made the first character and it took some time, but after the first one we were like super fast because we
Mm-hmm.
pipeline, we found a way to communicate, and all the other characters, like each one of them was like even faster until the last one. We took us like 2 to 3 days to be done with the last character. um so that's why you gotta do the same thing many times, because you gotta develop that pipeline, what works, what doesn't work for you. So this project was cool for me, at least because the characters are very similar, level of difficulty. But I kind of like did the first one, and the second one was faster, third one, and I was like
Yeah.
already in a vibe, in the groove, going with
Yeah.
it. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think same for the look dev. Like after we find like what we are aiming for in the look dev, was really like way faster to reproduce and also to experiment new things. If you see like Seiya's armors, like is this the simplest of them. It does have less like extra details and things like that because it was the first one.
Right.
All right. Next question is from, and I'm going to try to get this right, JDS Myth Digi Artist.
Wow.
And it sounds like it may have come up in context to a particular part of what you're talking about, but they just asked, you ditch human IK when it comes time to animate.
Well, I do use human IK for posing. I never try to use it for animation, especially for animated characters like this ones. With you need a much more robust rig to be able to deform, do stretch, squash things. So yes, human IK is very good for posing. I would say I use it at work. I use it all the time. But for animation, yeah, it's not. It's you can use it if you're doing like background characters in the game, which they just supposed to walk or whatever. But for animation, yeah, it would never hold any animation for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the next question comes from Ahmed Taha. You guys rock. Can you
Thank you.
mention working for those studios in terms of portfolio? I think we can talk. I think they're wanting to know what's in your portfolio, coming from some of the studios you've worked for.
Yeah, well, at least in my case, I put in my portfolio what I want to be hired for. So I never put in my portfolio if I ever did a car, for example. Not that I hate modeling cars or anything, it's not. But it's not.
Leticia hate cars.
But I like modeling cars, but I love modeling characters and creatures and animals. So I believe that I want to sell myself for what I want to do for the rest of my life, what I want to have fun doing. So in my portfolio, I put only pieces that if someone sees that they want to hire me for that, I want to do those things.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's each person is different. Everyone has different realities, right? So you take that with the grain of salt. But most of the time, if you look at my portfolio, actually it's all personal work. Like I have most of it's personal. It's not actually work that I did in companies, because I want to show who I am as art director decision as well. Because when we're doing this
Mm-hmm.
project, me and Victor, we're not just a modeler and look dev artist, we're art directing ourselves, right? And when you're in a studio, you can have this amazing concept and someone else art directing you, but you got to learn how to make those decisions yourself, and how you do
Yeah.
that through personal work. So I would say really pay attention on doing personal work, and studying lighting, colors, color theory,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Because
Yeah.
every time I go to a different studio, they always want to dissect my personal pieces, because they know that all the decisions were made by me. So they
Mm-hmm.
understand my level of craftiness, my craft, the level of my craft, basically.
Yeah. Also, I have some freelance clients. They really like trust my work, and it's cool because they get to at some point, like based on my portfolio and my art direction decisions. At some point, they make, oh, it's your call. When they want like to decide something. I was like, wow, this is makes so easy for me.
All
Yeah, if
right.
you a studio is a vision, right? You're following
Yeah.
a collective vision. That's not just yours. In your personal project, that's your vision. So they really know where you are on your career through a project.
Yeah.
All right, so Axel1283 is back again to ask Leticia, which program do you use for the topology?
I used Maya for topology. So normally I do a rough in of the body in ZBrush. And when I have those primary, a few secondary shapes, I go to Maya, do a cool retopo on it, and then I go back to ZBrush, and then I start editing more.
And then a follow-up question on topology from Maya Prey. They want to know. They want to know: do you try to limit to 5 stars, or are they useful for parts of the process like n-gons?
If I limit the amount?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Vertices with 5. Yeah.
On the face, yes. On the face, I try to limit. There's some points that you can't cut corners because you need to make the flow change. So you gotta have that 5-star there. But for the rest of the body, it's not that hard. Like you get 5 stars sometimes on the hips as well. But you think about 5 stars, you want to try to avoid them in very deformation areas, right? If the area is going to deform too much, try to avoid a star there. But sometimes it's hard, like having those stars right here on the zygomatic bone. You have to have it because it's changing flow. So, yeah, I try to avoid, but yeah, there's some areas that you gotta have it. Yeah. And n-gons in characters, no. Don't put n-gons in characters. N-gons is for hard surface that's not gonna deform. That's fine, but not in characters.
Just a simple question from Yi 2021. It's not me asking this. This is coming from the chat. Just wanting to know, Victor, did you go to Gnomon?
No. I'm a self-taught artist, but I did a talk on the Gnomon on 2016.
Gnomon is constantly collaborating with so many of the top artists out there. It's really cool, including you. All right, let's see here. I think.
Yeah.
Leticia mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. Is there anything you wanted to say about your time at Gnomon, or?
I think what made Gnomon different for me than other schools that I've been is that the level of the students and the teachers are so high that it's kind of like you got to get your shit together, basically. There's no better way to say it. You kind of have to see your colleagues in class, your friends, and they're moving so fast, and you can't just stop. You gotta move with it. It's almost this crazy force inside Gnomon that I did the 2-year program, and my life changed forever, like as an artist, because there's no better way to explain them. There's just this energy that I never felt any other place. They're everyone collaborating. You learn so much just sitting there with your friends. And the cool thing is, most of my jobs, I think almost all of them, I got through someone that I met at Gnomon or a teacher at Gnomon. Like a Blizzard, for example, was a teacher invited me to apply. So you make very good friendships, like for your professional friendships. So I'll say, if you ever thinking about going to Gnomon, be a nice person there, or else no one's gonna help you to get jobs. Be a nice person everywhere, but
yes,
always a good.
It's a small industry. It's a really small industry.
It's a small industry. So like, you go to a school like Gnomon that the teachers are in the industry, you already have some doors open for you. And I took a lot of advantage of that because I'm very passionate and serious about my profession. So I made great relationships with my teachers and also my friends in school. They're also amazing artists in the industry, So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Zenku Boxes wants to know from Victor, what was the name of the auto rigging plug-in that you used to create the rigging of the characters?
Oh, it's L8 Auto Rig for 3ds Max.
Okay.
L8.
L8? Is that the number 8? Okay.
No,
right,
it's
then,
the letter. The
H.
Yeah, sorry about
Okay,
that. It's so
sorry.
hard for me. Like I
LH.
said, remember that I said I hate spelling.
All right, and then Isaac Lamus wants to know: whenever you have a posed character and decide to change scales, what do you do? Do you go back and scale it and rig it all over again, or is there another way?
So if you're using a good rig, you can just like scale the rig.
Yeah. Let's say
That
like you
easy.
have let's say the head. I want to make the head
Mm-hmm.
smaller. You can take just the controller of the head and scale that,
Mm-hmm.
and you get, in our case, for example, some of the characters were like, oh, maybe 5% less. Then we just get that controller scale. We wanted the hands bigger, so like, oh, let's
Yeah.
make 10% bigger. You just scale the controllers, and then um,
Yeah, I think
hopefully,
like Iki will scale the whole body at some point, like to make him bigger.
we wanted him to be very imponent,
Yeah, to be taller than the other one, to be really imponent.
Yeah.
All right, and then another question from JDS Myth Digi Artist for portfolio: how much original designs versus well-known properties? I think you addressed this a little bit already, Leticia, but when you're needing to balance that out, do you have any sort of ratio that you tend to go for?
Yeah, I would say like if you are a student and you're not confident on your own designs, pick designers that are in the industry. Okay, so for example, when I was at Noma, most of my designs were Corey Loftus, designer, used to be a designer at Disney. I picked Brittany Lee, used to be a designer at Disney, obviously because I wanted to be at Disney. So I picked designers that were doing things in the style that I wanted to do. So all my portfolio from Gnomon are designs of people that are well known, that they, not just that they were known, but they have very good design choices, right? Because if you have a poor design, you're gonna have a, even if you push the model, you're gonna have an okay model, right? But if you have an amazing design, you gotta try so much harder to make it even more amazing, and that was what I was going for. I was always trying to push more if I could the design. So I would say like focus on finding designs that you like, that tell stories. Storytelling is so important, my portfolio from Noma, not just the designs but the stories were something that I really focused on. I was really focused on not just showing a pretty picture, but telling a story with it. So I'll say for me, storytelling, great design, are things that are very important to me when I'm looking for a concept to make. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I think I can add on that, my portfolio, like my personal work portfolio, it's 90% based like on fun arts. There's a lot of fan arts in my portfolio. And some people see that as a problem, like, oh, it's, you don't have like original characters, or it gives like, why fan arts? One thing that I keep in mind, like, I do fan arts because I like the subject. It's a subject that attracts me. It's something that I really like to do. But more than that, you need to remind that you're doing like something that not everyone knows. You know, so aside from like for being a fan art, or like an original character or an original concept or concept for someone else, always push the quality of your work, no matter like what the subject. Try to always to push the quality of your work. This is what matters, because sometimes like the recruiter or director doesn't know the subject, but he knows like quality.
Right. They can
So
see quality. Like, for example, Saint Seiya, this project we did, a lot of American
mhm.
people don't ever watched it. So they have no clue this is a fan art. They just look at it and like, cool, interesting, unique,
Mhm.
What that happens with fan art, right? Um, Another thing is that do in your portfolio things that you like to do. I
Yeah.
mean, life is too damn short. Like, why are you gonna
Mhm.
out of people wants to see? Just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I always did that since Noman. I always chose to do just what I wanted to do, because at work you might love what you're doing at work, but you gotta do it even if you don't love it.
Yeah.
But your personal stuff, do what you love, man. Don't waste time in
Mhm.
life doing
Yeah.
other. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say
And
car.
And if you push yourself, like people will see your portfolio, whatever the like subject you're doing. You know, as long as like you keep like the hype, like pushing your quality, pushing your work by like to be better.
All right, Ulysses Artist wants to know how do you go from being a production artist to a professor or instructor? Do you need to be at some level, or is it volunteer?
I had the opportunity to be a student at Gnomon, and then I got to the industry, and then Gnomon contacted me, and they hired me to be a teacher. So I would say to be a teacher, it's there are two things, right? It's like you can be very good at your craft. That's one thing. Another thing is being very good at explaining your craft, right? And explaining in a way that is not just for you to understand, because my brain works in a way, my student's brain is different, right? So you kind of have to figure out how to create almost like a process, a digestible process for students, right? So a lot of people, everyone went through a teacher that you're like, damn, this guy is such a good artist, but he's a horrible teacher, right? And that no, you're not a horrible teacher. So that's a lie. But what I want to say is that if you're interested in teaching, besides having an amazing, not amazing, but great work,
Just to the point, something. I'm not neither a good artist or a good teacher. That's too sad.
but like for me, when I decided to teach, and I used to teach back in Brazil as well, a lot of it it's almost like you gotta have on a paper the process, and you gotta start breaking it and imagining like what people are gonna ask, like, but why you did this, why you did that, and then you gotta start creating answers for yourself, so luckily enough, when I came to the US, because I love teaching as well, when I was at Gnomon, I was always not just learning, but I was observing the teachers, like how they would teach certain subjects. And I was like, I like how he taught that. One day I'll do that too, And for me, it was kind of like that, You gotta like to really dig in on the understanding of things and make it a process almost, in some way, especially the technical side of things, right? Yeah.
All right, another question from let's see, JP Camera 121. How much pieces or how many pieces should I send when applying for a character model or position in an animation studio? What's your rule of thumb there?
Well, what I learned is that you should have 3 to 5 very solid pieces, right? At least three. So normally if you make a reel, a video, they say like try not to pass from 3 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes, because the truth is like, and I was part of the recruitment, also helping analyze portfolios when I was at DreamWorks. And a lot of times we put the portfolio up and we watch like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 pieces, and if we feel it, we finish. If we don't, so it's kind of like you gotta put your best work in their faces, and that's kind of at least how I see it. Um, and if they get interest on your work, because the cool thing today, at least I use ArtStation. So on ArtStation, they can click on a link and see a reel in video format. And if they're interested to see more, they can just click on the rest of your ArtStation work, So sometimes if I saw like a student or a candidate, and then I'll be like, oh, let's see if they have more stuff. And then I'll just click through their ArtStation or something. But sometimes the company might contact you and say, hey, do you have more stuff to show? And then you're like, oh, yeah, sure. And then you send to them. But 3 to 5 solid pieces of what you want to do, I think it's a good number. Sometimes it takes only one piece. They look and they're like, yep, we want this person, for some reason. It's kind of like hard. It's not linear decision, It takes a lot of feelings and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to weigh in on that as well, Victor?
Yep. what she said.
All right. Well, thank you. That's about the time that we have tonight. I just want to say one more time, Leticia, Victor, thank you so much for your amazing presentation, for sharing your project with us tonight, and for joining us on the Gnomon Twitch channel. Yeah, it was wonderful being with you guys.
Thank you for having us.
So much. Thank you, Gnomon. And
yeah, thank you, Gnomon.
And last thing I want to say, go follow your dreams.
Yes.
All right. Well, we will be back next week, next Thursday, and we will be having an event, an evening with Ian Spriggs, amazing portrait modeler, portrait sculptor. I mean, if you haven't seen Ian's work, look him up. He's producing some amazing stuff. So we'll be back here next Thursday night. Miranda is going to be posting a link to that, I believe, in the chat as well. But everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. We are going to keep streaming. We're producing a lot of great content here. Even though we are all stuck in our houses social distancing, we want to be able to provide some amazing events for all of you here through Gnomon. So thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure being